Here we are at Edinburgh Castle, waiting for the time-honoured firing of the 1 o'clock gun. The origin of this is very simple. It's used as an accurate time check for ships at sea. And around about the middle of the 19th century, most ports that fired this sort of gun would fire at midday 12 rounds. Now, the Scotch thought, 12 rounds, that's very expensive. Let's wait an hour and just fire the one. That's true.
Rolf on Saturday, OK, in 15 minutes.
Now at 5:35, the early evening news on BBC1 with Jan Leeming.
West Ham take the FA Cup, beating the holders and favourites Arsenal by 1-0. It's West Ham's third cup final victory. The last time was in 1975 when they were in the First Division. This afternoon, few people gave them a real chance against Arsenal, but after an early goal, it was the title holders who looked unsettled. Our sports correspondent Michael Blakey saw the match.
West Ham, the outsiders from the Second Division, gave Arsenal an early warning that they weren't impressed by the reputation of the First Division side. Stuart Pearson took over the attack to give an early chance for Pike. A minute later, there was another shock for the cup holders as West Ham again attacked down the left. This time it was Devonshire who produced the threat. The first shot was blocked, but not the second. Pearson looked delighted, but it was Brooking who scored the goal for West Ham. Arsenal, clearly shaken, responded with a solo effort from Briggs. Arsenal were playing their 67th game of the season and their most important, but showed no signs of fatigue as they built up a chance for David Price. But at half-time, West Ham was still in the lead. Brian Talbot was hoping for his third successive Cup Winners' medal. Phil Parkes was making his first Wembley appearance. With just minutes to go, West Ham broke away after a bombardment from Arsenal. It looked as though their youngest player, 17-year-old Paul Allen, might score. Young's foul stopped Allen from scoring, but it didn't stop him from becoming the youngest player to collect a Cup Winners' medal. The final score, West Ham 1, Arsenal 0.
The Scottish Cup final at Hampden Park saw the two old Glasgow rivals, Celtic and Rangers, meet in their 12th final. Neither side could score before the game went into extra time. Archie McPherson reports as Celtic, in the hoops, took a corner.
Robin to take it. Well away by Dawson. Yes, Nedden. Tom Forsyth. Still not clear. Danny McGrain. Oh, that's a goal! McCluskey got the touch from that shot. There was a deflection. For Celtic.
And that was the result. There had been fears before the game that it could end in violence because of the rivalry between the two sets of supporters. These were proved true when fans invaded the pitch from both ends of the ground and mounted police had to be brought on to restore order. It was as the pitch was beginning to clear that the mounted police moved in to drive the fans back onto the terraces.
This is now like a scene out of Apocalypse Now.
The violence had broken out just as the cup had been presented, marring what until then had been a largely peaceful match. A number of fans were injured, with several more arrested for their violent behaviour. Another Libyan has been murdered abroad, this time in Rome, where the victim, a 37-year-old man, was shot dead in a busy hotel bar. Like the two Libyans murdered in London last month, he was an opponent of the Libyan leader, Colonel Gaddafi. A report from David Willey in Rome.
The victim was a 37-year-old political opponent of Colonel Gaddafi of Libya, named by Italian police as Abdullah Mohammed el-Kazmi. The Libyan met two fellow countrymen by appointment in the bar of a hotel near the railway station, and one of them drew a pistol and shot him in the head, killing him instantly. The killers escaped, but police subsequently rounded up about 30 North Africans and were holding them for questioning. This was the third murder of a Libyan in Rome in the past 2 months. President Gaddafi has threatened to physically eliminate all his fellow countrymen in exile who failed to return home this month. Otherwise, he says, they are doomed, wherever they may be.
Scotland Yard say they're now looking for 3 men in connection with the murders of the 2 Libyans in London. One theory is that they could be hiding in the Libyan embassy here. The police have named the wanted men as Salem Ali and Youssef Mohammed, both 25, and Hussein Lakri, aged 24. The murdered men were a journalist and a lawyer. Our diplomatic correspondent says some agreement may be reached over the diplomatic status of the Libyan embassy after recent talks in Tripoli. It's now manned by a committee of students. More than 1,000 people have attended a memorial service at Manchester Cathedral for the 146 people who died in the Danair disaster at Tenerife in the Canary Islands a fortnight ago. This report from Richard Duckenfield.
Most of the congregation were close relatives of those who died. They came from many parts of the North and Midlands as well as the Manchester area. They were joined by members of the Danair Board of Directors and nearly 200 pilots and cabin staff in uniform. Crews were transferred to Manchester from Gatwick to cover today's flights. Manchester's Lord Mayor, Councillor Gerard Fitzsimons, and Spanish consular officials also attended the service. Free Church and Roman Catholic clergy read the lessons. The Bishop of Manchester, the Right Reverend Stanley Booth Clibborn, gave the address. He said no one should minimise the terrible pain and anguish sudden bereavement had brought. Many of today's mourners will attend the first funeral on Monday. 34 of the dead who've been identified and 87 who haven't will be buried in a communal grave.
Independent television news are unlikely to be on the air with any of their scheduled bulletins this weekend, and no further talks are planned with the technicians' union, the ACTT, which blacked out 2 ITN bulletins yesterday. Brian Hanrahan has been looking at the dispute.
The equipment which caused the trouble was in use at the Scottish Conservative Conference in Perth again today. It's called Electronic News Gathering, ENG for short, and has the advantage over film that pictures can be replayed instantly. Grampian were asked by ITN last night to use this speed to record a speech by the Prime Minister, but Grampian has a union agreement for ENG, ITN does not. Blank screens in London were the result. ITN said the Technicians' Union, the ACTT, would handle the material only on conditions that were unacceptable, and so their members had dismissed themselves. The technical areas remain as they were left. The unions say ITN had agreed to consult them before using Grampian's ENG. ITN say there is no such agreement. It's been done 3 times before, and they can't keep asking permission.
If we're subject to that kind of permission being granted on each occasion and risk the loss of not getting the material, then our editorial control of the programmes would suffer.
The newsroom is fully manned, but can't take in or put out pictures. ITN see no likelihood of putting anything on the screen this weekend, and don't expect another meeting with the union before Tuesday.
Finally, back to football, and the former England manager, Don Revie, is leaving his job with the United Arab Emirates. His contract still had 17 months to run, and he'll get £90,000 compensation. Mr. Revie said his 3 years there had been a success. He thought his employers now wanted an Arab-speaking coach instead. Brian Hanrahan asked him whether there'd been any bad blood.
None whatsoever, because they're giving me a big farewell party with a presentation to thank me for all I've done for them at football. And we'll part on the best of terms.
Do you think you will be back in English football?
Well, I've one or 2 offers in England and abroad, but I'll decide that in July, but I think it could possibly be abroad. I'll be concentrating on for my career.
Do you think you'd be welcome back in England if you had to come back here?
Well, I don't know that. That's up to anybody who wants to employ me if I want to come back.
And that's the news. I'll be back at 5 to 10, but now the weather with Jack Scott.
Good evening to you. Well, the reason for the fine, warm, sunny weather in many parts of Britain today was that high pressure just to the east of us and the warm southerly winds over the country. There is some rain on this front. It's only edging in very, very slowly indeed. But tonight's satellite picture shows the cloud on it, that thick band of cloud that's already covering Ireland, you'll notice. Not very much sunshine there today, but the rest of the country and much of Europe under the high pressure having had a good deal of sunshine. Tonight, of course, that's going to result in some central and eastern areas in the temperature falling fairly quickly to a ground frost in just a few places, not so many as last night, and by the end of the night, perhaps some rain getting into Northern Ireland from that front. Tomorrow, well, that rain in Northern Ireland on and off during the day, a cloudy day there, starting off fairly bright in the southwest, but in West Wales and southwest England, or parts of it, there may well be some rain before the day is through, but for the rest of the country, it looks like another day of warm sunshine. That's it. Good evening.
Now, with a roundup of today's sport, here's Davies.
So, as you surely know, it's West Ham's FA Cup for the third time since the war. And right now we can savour the reaction of their players after the underdogs had won the FA Cup final yet again.
I've been a professional for 12 years now, and this is the highlight of my career.
John and them other 10 out there have always get behind me and all encouraged me, and it's great. They've been like that all season. I'm just well pleased for the club and for John and the supporters out there.
How does it compare for you with the last time?
I think it's better. I think last time probably it all washes over you a little bit and you don't take it in, but this time I said to John and the lads we're going to really go and enjoy it, and I think we did. I've taken everything in, today I'm enjoying it.
There's nothing like it. I've always said it's a champagne day of football. It's a wonderful day because at this moment we're all together, the supporters, the players, the staff. Everyone's here today, everyone can savour the moment, and that's what West Ham's about.
And East London surely the place to be tonight. But away from soccer, the main headline of the day is that the British Lions opened their South African tour by beating Eastern Province 28 points to 16 in Port Elizabeth. But the Lions suffered two injury shocks. In the first minute, flanker Stuart Lane had to go off with an injured knee, and in the 25th minute, Gareth Davies damaged a shoulder. But despite these setbacks, the Lions gave a very impressive display, and Mike Slemon, Terry Holmes and Elgin Rees all went over for tries. In cricket, off-spinner Derek Parry has upstaged the West Indian fast bowlers by taking 4 wickets against Worcestershire in the opening match of the tour. And here, the scoreboard details.
Worcestershire against the West Indians. West Indian fast bowler Malcolm Marshall took 2 quick wickets as the tourists opened their first-class fixtures at Worcester. But Barry Jones with 41 and Yunus Ahmed with 43 led a Worcestershire fight back. Derek Parry presented all the batsmen with problems with his off-spinners and took 4 of the first 8 wickets.